Hello YouTube, it's Lion here with Hobbies of Man once again, and today we are doing another chapter review for Kaiju number 8. Today we are going to go over chapter 30, this week's chapter, and it's so good. I'm really happy with it. I mean, I swear to God, I say this every time, but Kaiju number 8 is a banger. Every chapter has been good since the beginning. The first 5 chapters were crazy, especially since they dropped all together. So yeah, but as always, we're going to have a recap and then a chapter review discussion thing, and then we're going to talk about theories at the end. But I don't really have a big theory. I just think that the way the arc seems to be ending is not really going to be the case, but I'm not really sure, right? Because I'm not like a writer, so I don't have deep knowledge about how some other writers might approach a story, but I do have some kind of like knowledge in terms of like the reader side, and there seems to be, quite a few different like clues here and there to suggest that the ending of this arc isn't going to be what we're expecting, right? So yeah, now let's just jump into the recap. From chapter 29, we basically spent most of that chapter learning about Hoshina's past. It's basically this idea that Hoshina comes from this ancient kaiju hunting family, right? Which would basically be like exorcists, right? Like those like every other Japanese exorcist manga with like swords, like Bleach and stuff, or Black Torch. He's like this from this ancient exorcist clan that hunt kaiju, and he learned how to use the sword. He's not good at weapons, but he's badass with a sword. But that's really not the case. Like, it's not necessary anymore, or at least it's not as necessary anymore, because the majority of modern kaiju, at least in terms of the story, are gigantic, are like, what was it called? Monster class, I think it was. Like, they're just like huge. And so Hoshina's sword fighting abilities really don't match up against giant kaiju. It only works with medium to small size kaiju, as we've seen him say before, right? So he was basically being told by his father and by a member of the JDF that he should either change his weapons, which he didn't want to do because he wasn't good at guns, or turn into an instructor instead of joining the JDF, because he would not be able to do what he needed to do with only sword skills. He didn't care. He still tried. And it turns out that Mina needed someone to watch her back while she was using her, giant gun. And she chose Hoshina, right? So she gave meaning to his life and allowed him to follow his dream by choosing him, right? So that's where we get the relationship between Mina and Hoshina, and appears to be very, very close. Maybe not romantic, but definitely like very close friendship. And Hoshina obviously feels that he owes her a lot. So that's really cool. We also see Hoshina battling number 10, and he's doing his best, but obviously because number 10 is a giant kaiju, he's really not doing the best against him. So we see him and we think he's going to die, but then at the last second we hear a voice, right? And it turns out that it's Mina, and she has arrived, right on time, on the nick of time, before Hoshina was going to get, destroyed. And that's where the chapter ended. And that's where the chapter starts this week as well. So let's just jump into the review discussion portion of the video. Chapter 30 has 17 pages. And sadly, we don't have a chapter next week, and we didn't have a chapter last week. I think last week was because of a Japanese holiday, and next week is because it's the usual break time that we have in terms of like every 3 weeks, right? So I assume that they just decided not to change the date for that to accommodate the Japanese holiday. So they just kept it that way, and we're gonna have like alternating chapter, no chapter weeks for the next couple days, or for the next couple weeks, right? So kind of sucks, but obviously I really don't mind, because if every chapter, short as they are, is as good as these have been, I don't really mind waiting. I just am happy that, the manga is doing what they need to do in order to provide the best content for us. So I'm going to keep supporting them, even if I hate waiting for chapters, right? So let's just jump into it now. We start off right where 29 left off, and Mina shows up, and she uses her same phrase, right? I don't remember what the phrase was. I think it was like something along the lines of, I'm here or something. Like, I don't know. It wasn't like All Might, but like the point was like, it's my turn to shoot it. So, don't worry. And she shoots a huge blast because if we remember, I think she unleashes her combat potential, and which is 93%, I think, and she shoots a huge blast. And we see her tiger, which we had made a theory about last week. Her tiger is basically like functioning as a recoil support for her because she has her giant gun in her hands, but she has no way to like stabilize herself. So her tiger does it for her. It like leans its back against her lower back, I guess, and it like maintains her standing. So it's basically like she and her tiger form a tripod, and then from that tripod she can shoot. So that's a very interesting technique. It's kind of odd. Like, you would just assume that they would give her a gun that has like legs, but I guess not. It's also kind of interesting because it adds an element to Mina that most other characters don't have in the form of a pet or a familiar. And I still think that tiger is probably like a genetically engineered one, if not like a robot, in order to help her in case, some other stuff happens. Like maybe it can turn somewhat into a kaiju and, fight against other ones. So that's pretty cool. And yeah, it's a really awesome kind of technique that she uses her tiger as a stabilizer. That's really cool. And yeah, she hits it and then she dodges the counterattack and then tries to hit it again. And Mina knows where to aim thanks to Okanogi. Okanogi sends her a voice message, I guess, telling her, the heart of the kaiju is located in this section of its back. I think between the 5th and the 6th thoracic plate or something like that. I can't remember what it said, but basically it's like in the back towards like the left. So basically where a human heart would be, I guess. And yeah, it apparently it's regenning way too fast though, and we can see Mina tell her tiger, which is named Bako, which I can't remember if she had mentioned his name before. I think she had, but I can't remember when. Help her, and then the kaiju dodges this shot. It can regen faster now, which is concerning, and Hoshina decides to join the fray. He's like, "Welp, looks like it's time to get back into it." And he reactivates his combat potential, which is now at 63%, probably because he's hurt. He already maxed out his combat potential earlier, which was, I think, like between 85 and 90. I can't remember the exact number. And, a few other factors probably decreased the total combat potential that he could unleash. So that's kind of interesting to see. It's a good little bit of world building that doesn't require any explanation because you can deduce it naturally, which is really nice. It means that, the manga is really good at what they're doing. So I really like that. And he hits the kaiju with some techniques, but obviously because it's regenning so much faster now, and Hoshina's techniques are not the best against giant kaiju, we see that it's basically ineffective. But yeah, Okanogi objects to Hoshina joining the fray, but he basically ignores her because he needs to do what he needs to do, right? It's his job to hold the line for Mina while she prepares to shoot. And that's exactly what he's trying to do. And yeah, Kikoru shows up. She tries to help Hoshina, but basically she hits the kaiju and nothing happens to it. Turns out that Kikoru's level is too low to affect this type of kaiju. So this kind of shows up a few different possibilities. One, Kikoru's level, which I think was 57% last time she mentioned it, is not high enough to attack giant class kaiju. But we see that Hoshina's 63% is. So maybe you need to pass a certain threshold in order to hurt, a giant class kaiju, which would probably be around 60% based on, the bit of data that we have. Or it might be that this specific kaiju just has really high defense and Kikoru's level is just not high enough for this specific kaiju. Either way, it kind of sets up the fact that, Kikoru is still significantly less powerful than the captain and the vice captain. It also sets up that combat potential is exponential, because there's really not that much difference between 57 and 63. It's only about 6 points. But that 6-point difference is huge, right? Because, one thing is completely ineffective and the other one is effective, but doesn't work well enough because of the fast regen. So we can see that, combat potential is exponential, and that, Kikoru is just not at the right threshold yet. So that's really cool. Lots of good world building here happening, and I'm really enjoying it. So yeah, they decide to team up. Hoshina hits it hard, and he hurts it, right? So he opens the wound, and then Kikoru shows up and she hits it with her axe in order to further damage the kaiju. It seems to work, but Kikoru gets basically knocked out because she overheated, which is something that we know is really dangerous, because we saw Hoshina have that happen to him last chapter, or the chapter before, I can't remember. But yeah, we see her overheat, and Hoshina's like, don't worry, it's fine, you did your job, I'll continue. And he manages to hit the kaiju again before he manages to regen, and manages to chop off its leg, making the kaiju topple over. And then he has this moment of like, not panic, like anxiety. He needs to be able to last a few more seconds before he like finishes up, because he's basically like hurting himself by using the combat potential, even though it's lower than before, because that like the suits are just really taxing. And he's like, I need to last 10 seconds, no, 5, just 5 seconds more. And he does it, and what he manages to do is cut open the kaiju's back enough to expose its heart, or its like core. I think the right name is a core, right? And he does that, and it turns out that basically Mina has 1 magazine left. Now I think this is a wrong translation, because based on the picture, like the image shown, it shows her like cocking the hammer of her gun, I guess, or like the handle of her gun, ejecting a round. So what I think they were trying to say is that they only had 1 round left, because that's supposed to be like a difficult, like it's supposed to raise the difficulty level, and we don't really know how many shots a magazine has. So I'm assuming that the point was supposed to be 1 charge left, like one bullet left, right? But they chose to say 1 magazine. So I'm kind of not sure there. I would have to look at the original Japanese and know what the Japanese says, but since I don't, I can't really verify it. But yeah, and then before that happened, actually, Hoshina had this moment of resolve, right? Like, while he was trying to figure out what to do, and before he managed to cut open the kaiju, he had this moment where he was like getting like the flashback power up, right? Where he's remembering Mina and how she gave him the opportunity to follow his dream, right? And he's like, basically, I owe her my life. My life would be nothing without her acceptance. I need to do this so that, I prove her right. And then he gets the resolve he needs in order to, hurt the kaiju and expose its back and stuff. And then the thing with the single magazine happens, and Mina takes the moment to acknowledge Hoshina. She's like, Hoshina, thank you. I knew that I could count on you. You are exactly what I needed. And then she shoots the kaiju, and she shoots it right through where she needed to shoot it, and it explodes. And we see its head falling off, like its body all exploded. And yeah, that's where the chapter ends, and it was so good. Obviously, I think at this point, the arc has only lasted about 7 chapters. If I'm remembering correctly, I can't remember exactly what chapter it was on that it started. I think it was chapter 24. So it's only been about 6 chapters so far, and that just feels too short, especially with something so impactful as like kaiju attacking the base where the JDF is directly, right? That's like a really impactful thing, right? So we're gonna jump into the theories now. I think this kaiju is not dead yet. I think that, there's going to be something that happened. Maybe it regens again into a smaller form, or maybe she didn't manage to hit the kaiju in the right core. Maybe it has 2 cores. I think something's going to happen. I think this is a false victory, which would be like the second one so far. Because the first one was when Hoshina cuts it up and then it expands and does the whole like Rita Repulsa make my monster grow thing, and it like gets huge. So I think it's probably going to do that again. But instead of going huge again, it's going to go small, which is going to be kind of interesting. But because I think that, sure, Hoshina and Mina managed to beat it, but they wouldn't send something that would get so easily beat, right? And we've seen Mina beat a kaiju before in a single shot. So I don't really think that that's going to happen. What I think is going to happen is that it's going to regen again, and it's going to have one last battle to do. And because Hoshina's out of the count, Kikoru's out of the count, Reno is too weak still, and all the other members are still too weak. Mina's going to have to do something and continue the battle. But since she only has 1 round / 1 magazine left, she's going to be ineffective, and it's going to be Kafka's turn to show up and save the day. And this is going to be really concerning because, damn, everyone's going to know Kafka is a kaiju. So I think that's what's going to happen. I'm not really sure, but I just think that it's too easy of a victory after, such a short time period. I kind of understand it if it does happen the way like that it looks like, because based on the end of this chapter, we can assume that next chapter is going to be, round up all of the wyverns and then kill them. And then, the next chapter after that is going to be like the wind down. But I think that that's too fast. The arcs are too quickly finished right now. And I think that it's time to start lengthening them. So I think that this is what's going to happen. It's going to be a false victory, and then we're going to have another battle with the same kaiju. Maybe it doesn't have a regen ability anymore. Maybe it's about the other wyvern kaiju sacrificing themselves in some way to kind of give the kaiju, the dragonoid kaiju, the kaiju number 10, a way to revive in some form, right? But yeah, that's the theory I have. So thank you guys very much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, please leave a like, subscribe, and comment down below. Let me know what you thought. Thank you guys again for watching. And as always, I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and see you guys later.